You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. Whether it's for food, fuel, drinks, or snacks, about half the U.S. population shops at a convenience store every day. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
Welcome to Convenience Matters. You heard the introduction. Our guest coming up does not care about our brand promise. So today on Convenience Matters, we welcome Scott Stratton. Scott was our general session speaker today, day 2 at the NACS Show. His whole presentation was on how do you do the unbranding, unlearning. It says there right on his arm. So welcome, Scott.
Hey, I am ecstatic to be part of this. I am a huge fan of convenience stores, as you know, and it was a pleasure to be on stage today.
So you talked about and is in all your, the joke didn't work. We said unbranded. They couldn't guess that wasn't one of your books, although it may be. But the idea of is that your brand is really created by your customers. It's not created by you. And you want to talk a little bit about, the whole idea of
Sure. And so unbranding, unmarketing, unselling, all is when somebody sees your logo, what do they think? We actually literally don't see the logo. We see the stories behind it. So when you see a convenience store logo, you don't think, oh, the nice shade of yellow they use in it, real strong serif in the font. We don't think like marketers, because us marketers aren't normal humans, right? We think in other terms.
As I see the turn to me just for yes, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, exactly. I don't even have to know. I know you agree with it because
they don't really care about the PMS.
No,
but that's what was so great about your talk, because as you're speaking, I totally understood and could relate with where you're coming from. So often it is that people think it's just about the color palette and the logo, and that's going to bring people there if it's bright and shiny. But as you're about to tell us, when you unpackage it, it's so much more that's behind it. You actually have to live and breathe it.
And it's a huge part where the marketing, so the classical marketing does its job before the walking of the store, before the awareness, right? Marketing drives awareness. It's what marketing is supposed to do and start and end. That's what we're supposed to do, right? Create awareness of either a brand itself or a campaign or whatever it is. But once I walk in, or once I download an app, once I do any of those type of things, that's when the unmarketing takes over, right? The experience of it. So you may have planned out all sort of display and everything else, but if it's not even done properly and the employee is a jerk, well, now I don't care about the color palette we used for the website. I just know I didn't. So when I see that beautifully designed logo or a rebranded logo, now I'm going to think about that jerk at the store. Now I'm going to think about the poor selection of products. So that's where the unmarketing comes in. That's where the branding doesn't matter if the actions don't follow through.
Right. All of a sudden, your logo becomes the stamp or the seal for what you did so terribly.
And we think of stories. Psychologists say we see a logo, we think two things: our most recent experience with the brand or one we've heard, and the most extreme experience with the brand or one we've heard. And the problem is most people that have the stores themselves, their answer is different than the customer's answer.
They don't say serif. That's the letters with feet.
That's right. They don't think the same. And none of us do. But that's also about customers. No two customers think identical about your brand. It's all based on our history, experience, and stories. But then that gives hope, because we're all constantly rewriting that brand story with every visit, every great experience or lack thereof. We are redefining our brand, which is actually good for especially legacy brands, where employees, one of the biggest problems with employees at the older brands or the larger brands is they don't think they affect the brand. They think they're just a cog in the giant wheel, and who cares whether or not I'm on my phone at the register when somebody comes in and don't even acknowledge them. Who cares? Well, everybody does. That's the thing. Everybody does.
Right.
And also, like you talked about, you visited a lot of convenience stores. You showed some fun products there. Everybody smiled. You didn't necessarily say, I got a trail mix because it was healthy for me. Or something. You showed some funny names.
Right.
It was like judgment-free products. And is there something that people need to learn about that? You don't have to be buttoned up. Make somebody smile. Make them want to buy something. Make them want to come back.
As long as we're dealing with humans in our business, humans have a few things that we really have in common. I don't care who you are, where you're from, or how old you are. We want to feel valued. But that really should be point 1 and through 10. So we want to feel valued, meaning our time is valued or our money is valued as a customer, or we've made the right choice. If you ever walked into a convenience store and said, oh no, like this is not going to have what I want or not what place I want to be. Right? We want the experience of walking into a place saying, you know what, I feel valued, I feel appreciated. That is a human tenet. That is at the core of our back of our brainstem, is to feel like we are welcome, we're belonged, and we made the right choice.
Well, and I wrote down one of the things when you were speaking, and it's simple, but I think we forget about it, to your point. And you talked about, most of us think of us being in the commodity business versus the relationship business. And when I heard you say that, I thought, and Jeff and I have talked about this a lot, but Edelman puts out a trust barometer every year.
Yeah, I love that one. Edelman's great.
This year, trust is across the board just down.
Yeah.
It's media, it's government, it's NGOs, private, public. And I think what you said there about the relationship business really speaks to that, because trust oftentimes comes from authenticity, and that at your front line is your employees.
And trust is built through relationships. So the more often I come into your store, the higher that trust goes. And one of the things that does is not only you say hi to me when I come back, I'm not even saying learn my name. It's like, hey man, what's up? Good to see you again.
Yeah, acknowledge.
Acknowledge, thank you. And then the higher that goes, if something does go wrong, we've built a brand equity with our customer. So the recovery from that error does not have to be severe as it was somebody who was already low on our pulse of our how happy we are with the place. Like if a friend of mine screws up, I'm all good, right? You just make it work. But if I'm already don't like you and then you screw up, it's the end of the world for me, right? And now I want the whole store as a compensation, right? You want everything free,
Yes.
Yeah.
free gas for life, free snow cones, whatever it's going to be because of this one screw up. Versus, you know what? Everybody's human, and we understand that. And as customers, I think we do understand that. We understand screw ups are going to happen. We actually expect them more often than not now. It's what you do, and the worst is the apathy, the employee, the company that doesn't care. Even when I escalate it, it's happened a lot where you go to then corporate and they don't care. I'm like, well, then that's your brand. That is your logo to me.
Well, and I think the other thing that you talked about too, so that's your face-to-face interaction inside the store, but it's just as important, maybe even more important now with social.
Right.
And you can have those same types of interactions. You don't have that physical, face-to-face experience, but if you don't acknowledge it and do something online, I mean, you can quickly see that grow.
And it's got to the point of escalation where then I bring it online. I don't think anybody's first move is, except a few people probably in the world, where they just immediately go complain online. It usually is an origin in the store. And then since it doesn't get addressed or taken care of at the satisfaction of the customer, then they escalate it. Don't make me tweet this or something like that'll happen.
Yes.
But you have to understand a social, we call it social extortion, right? Where you're like, this company did not treat me right. And we always view it as a store side of it. We view it as it's just people complaining constantly. And I don't buy that. I think what they're saying is I wanted it to go well. I wanted to get what I wanted, and I'm giving you a shot to make that right. And of course we're complaining all the time. For 100 years plus, we had no recourse when something went wrong. If I went somewhere and I got a bad thing of beef jerky from a convenience store and it went bad, what was my recourse? I had to drive back to the place, or I write a sternly written letter to you and hear nothing maybe.
Right.
So this is an opportunity. When I say that beef jerky was off or was bad that I bought online, what you're going to say is, I'm so sorry that happened, and let us replace it for you. Let us do something for you, and then overwhelm them with it, because then you can actually take somebody who's angry at your company and make them a better fan than they were before the problem happened, because you've solved the problem.
Yeah.
So do you almost intentionally make somebody mad and then turn them?
Just to get an army of really excited.
And it's like, wow, they're super energized now.
I think, but naturally
Jeff,
we make people mad.
That is not the way we do it.
Is that marketing?
That's the
Yeah,
marketing.
that is not in the book.
Unto the power of two. I like it though.
Huh.
An army of formerly angry, really happy people.
But
Yes.
people will literally quit their jobs to try to take you down on social media. I don't have time for my job.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to take them
This will
down.
be my focus in life. I'm like,
Yes.
sometimes you look at it, as somebody who doesn't have a job myself, it's like, where do you find this time? Like, they really will hunt down companies. And I know a lot of social media managers for a lot of brands, and they're like, what do you do? And there is a line. There is a line that you should go until you stop. Because sometimes people are just trolls. Sometimes they just can't be satisfied. Sometimes it's better off not spending your time. There's a great book by my good friend Jay Bayer called Hug Your Haters. And it's a phenomenal
What a great title.
Yeah, a phenomenal barometer for how far you should go. I recommend everybody grab that book. It's a great one.
But hug them not in a dolphin way.
Exactly, in an appropriate way. Yes, virtual hugs, not
You have to
in person.
know a little bit about Scott's presentation to understand that one. Now,
It's like a therapy session.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Now, social media, you talked about that. You are number 2 in Canada on social media to Justin Bieber.
That's right.
So what's he like?
Beeps. Well, he doesn't return my calls anymore. It's just weird. Before the YouTube phenom happened, we were just regular guys. But
skateboarders, things like
right?
that.
We just hanging out. We're just hanging out, and he's got much more energy than I do.
But related to social media, one of the things that you said is send me a request, want to engage, and I'll be right back. And you do that.
Yeah.
And you stay engaged with people. And I assume that then that makes people like you more. They know about your books. It's a way to tell your story.
Yeah.
You probably also don't look too deeply in because there's always haters. I mean, you could say, I found a unicorn and it's going to go bad.
Of course. And I think that we're for me right now, the great thing, I've been about 10 years now, kind of full bore into social and being my world and my life. And a lot of people coming up at events saying, I sent you a tweet when I got your first book 8 years ago. And I sent you a tweet and you replied. And I still remember that. Some guy said that to me last week. And I'm like, wow. Like, you realize how that they view somebody as whatever F-level celebrity I am to them, that they're like, that meant something to them. And that's a huge thing to me.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't take long. That's the thing. I get it. If you're a brand, and let's say you're Pepsi, and I spoke at Pepsi and I saw their control center, everything, you can get 100,000 mentions in a day. I understand that engagement isn't always scalable, but for the most part, a lot of brands, it takes you 6 seconds. 6 seconds. Somebody said, I just went into Sheets and I picked it up and it was awesome. You can return the high five. Right, returning that high five. You don't leave somebody hanging because it looks. You ever seen somebody hanging? Like they just left awkward,
You
right?
hear that?
Yes.
Return the high five.
That's another thing. Issues. Yes, it's we can have a whole podcast on that. We'll separate there. But you're absolutely right. It is just that simple engagement, and we know people are busy, and convenience stores are about delivering speed of service, and then people race and they go on their way to sometimes not do much. And you can take some of that time and give back, and you're still going to be able to spend 10 hours a day on your phone and another 4 hours watching TV. You'll still get it all done.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. It's we can do a lot of things we think we can't. We can do a lot of things with the time we have. And I just you're on one side of the fence or the other. Either you think it's good to engage with your customers or you don't. And by the way, either answer is okay. Like, you don't have to engage with your customer. You can probably be in business for a long. Like, Ritz-Carlton doesn't have to be great at service. They have the best hotels. They can probably beat you with a bat. You'd still stay there because it's so incredible in the million thread count sheets. But if you have the best product and the best service, good luck to your competition.
Well, speaking of competition, there was a session here, an education session at the NACS Show, and it was all about doing good and that being the competitive advantage. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. I mean, whether certainly if you're a small store, that's one opportunity. If you're taking a look at, how do I compete with those that have 500 plus? Well, your best line of defense or that advantage can be the people that are right behind your counter.
Huge part of that, and where you look at it and say, how do I compete? I can't out advertise, I can't out donate, I can't. Well, but if you're a single store operation,
product, I mean, you can run through that.
And who better is a community representative than the people who live, breathe, and actually are from the community, right? That's true community. Sometimes with a bigger brand, it gets lost. Well, here's a giant donation, but you don't really. It's just everywhere. But this convenience store in my community is my community. And it's been like that forever. And that's where you can really leverage that for the right reasons too, not just because we want to take advantage, but just at the core of being a catalyst for your community. I think you can really take advantage of that. And then you don't have the constraints of corporate, whether or not you can or should do something.
And it goes back to how we started this, and it was somewhat jokingly, it's like, you don't care about the Convenience Matters brand.
Right.
You also don't, none of us walk into a store because, oh, wow, they have a great vision statement.
Right.
It's because what you see in the store every day, that's your mission, that's your vision, that's how you are. And one of the great lines, and you could see people writing this one down. They will take this one. If there's one line you said, if you want to improve the bottom line, improve the front line.
Right.
And it's all about getting employees that you trust, how they can deliver, and that's your brand.
100%. I just think the people, and this is coming from a marketing guy, where I can do 1,000 things in marketing, but if the people don't come along with that, I got nothing. It's just a campaign that doesn't even start. And that's the biggest problem. We need the people to be the people, to be the brand. I think brands are organic. They're living. They're ever changing, and which should be a good thing for employees. I think that employees don't do well. Like I said before, I think they don't do a good job sometimes because they don't think they matter. just like Murray said, customers, it matters to them knowing they're valued. It's the same for employees. They're still humans. We still play off the exact same guttural senses of things, where does people care I work here? Do I make a difference here?
Right.
Or am I interchangeable, just pawn where I can come and go? And is the attitude just do your job? Right? Well, I could do that job somewhere else too, right? And I think the value of the employees should be the valued part. They chose to work for us. Yeah, we chose to hire them, but they make the final call. They say, yeah, I'll accept the job. And that's important to do that. And I think we're like, well, the young people of today. No, young people never wanted to work overall, right? I didn't want to work when I was 18. I just did it for the money. Did I want a career as a movie theater usher where I worked? Well, maybe. It's free movies, so yeah.
Let's think about that one.
Yeah, but no, it was that they gave a damn I worked there or they didn't. And the different managers on the shift, I worked differently depending on who the manager was that night. That tells you something, right? That really tells you that those people can make a difference. And maybe that at an average purchase price for a customer, that maybe that person is so good and so personable that when they do an add-on sale recommendation or a cross-sale recommendation, that it seems more natural, and then they sell more. You know, better people do sell more product. That's how it works. And I know I'm not going to be all we are the world here and hold hands and just say be loving your customers and loving your employees. It's a business. But I think the people we trust and we like are better to even sell us better as well.
I agree with that.
So one thing, and there's another line I wrote down today, and I thought it was zen, it was clever. You said that you recently rented a car to go to a gas station. Mm-hmm. And it was Buc-ee's, and of course there are a lot of stores like Buc-ee's that are worth checking out. Yeah. But you also have said that being Canadian, this is where we take it viral, and the Canadians are all going to say, you got to listen to this podcast, we know how to save you money.
I'll help start that.
One of the things that you said is being Canadian, sometimes they tell you have to put in your 5-digit zip code. Yep. Canada has a 6-digit postal code.
Correct.
It doesn't work.
Well done.
So what you have to do is you have to return, you have to accept, I'm going to return the car full, even though you only went 4 miles to visit a gas station.
Right.
There is a workaround.
Yeah.
Canadians, what they need to do is remove the letters from their postal code.
Yeah.
And add zeros. Yeah. And that's it.
Or ones.
So that works. You can solve the problem. You don't have to accept it that way. Canada, rejoice.
It was life-changing for me when I learned that. It's also, you can use ones. So mine is like 65611. And I worked the first time. I was so frustrated. But that was so frustrated. I was returning the rental car. I didn't want to pay the $900 refill fee. So like, I'll just go to this place. And then, of course, you couldn't, like a lot of places where we are in Canada, you don't have to prepay the gas, you just pump it and you can go in. And I got to go in, and I'm like, well, how much gas? I'm like, I don't know. I'm metric system. I do gas in liters, and you're gallons. I'm like, I don't know, 100 gallons? She's like, pardon? I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
And she's
like,
it's
give me this much. Spelled R-E.
Right, thank you.
So it's not even American
Well,
liters.
it's the right way. Yeah, exactly.
It's the right way.
So we take it, and then I go in, and like I fill it up, and it's like $8. I'm like, oh, I just prepaid 80. Got to go back in, line up again, get the money back. It's just make it. Here's the best thing I can leave and give anybody listening right now. Make it easy for me to give you money. Make the path of least resistance lead to my wallet. And the problem is we don't sometimes, whether it's a paying at the pump issue or what we accept issue. That's a problem where they take a chip and pin, or is it this, or is it it's just like, I just want to give you my money. Just make it easy for me. And I couldn't get gas. In the United States with the credit card. I pay on credit card because my accountant likes it for the accounting purposes, so I can do it for the business. And man, it's a pain sometimes to spend money, which is the worst thing I've ever said.
There's our slogan for next year's NACS Show. Yeah. Just make it easy to give us your money.
Right?
Well, my job is done here.
And see. So before we go, we had said that Scott is very good. If you go on Twitter, go on LinkedIn, like him, love him, hug him, whatever those various sites are, whatever you do, he will accept it. He will grow his followers. You'll learn a lot.
I do have one last thing though. And it was one thing that Jeff and I had talked about beforehand. And I'm just curious from your perspective. Mm-hmm. We'll have a little fun with this as we close out. But if you were to pitch our industry as a TV show, what would that look like?
Well, there already is one. Right? Corner Gas is a great show, right? There's a couple of them too.
That's a Canadian show, folks.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, but it did well here
Yeah.
though too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did really well. It's already pitched. Yeah. I don't even know. I'm so stumped right now because all I have in my head is Corner Gas. It's an incredible show. It's that's the only idea I would have. Go watch Corner Gas. You'll understand what I mean.
There we go.
Done. You also have your own podcast.
Too. Yeah, the Unpodcast, the business show for the fed up. Yeah, where we every week rip apart things that are happening in business and marketing, and maybe the odd sprinkle of a good story or two. But it's amazing when you set up a brand about being angry about stuff every day. I'm not exaggerating. Every day we get stories sent from people saying, "Did you see this? Did you see this?" And you never want your store to be after the phrase, "Did you see this?" Because it never turns out well.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Scott. We know you want to hit the show floor. Go
bet.
check out what's out there.
Yes, sir. I'm looking
And-
forward to it. And thank you so much for having me. Look, every talk I give, all 60 a year I give, they're all my favorite, but this is my favorite.
Well, we're glad to hear that.
It's better than the unfavorite.
Bingo.
Thank you for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.